So before I go deeper into the word of data analysis, I want to clear a little misconception here. In my own experience, having worked in the place of business intelligence, the data analytics, I want to make a little distinction here. So you've heard of the data business analyst. Sometimes we try to, we're kind of tempted to think that business analysts and the data analysts are the same people. Please, these people are not the same. Where the business analyst, yes, can analyze data, but is tilted towards the business side of a company, the data analyst is not tilted towards the business side. It's tilted towards the IT side, the technical side of the business. So the business analyst can analyze data to find insight about business processes, but they make make informed decisions, make some even advanced analytics compared to a data analyst who essentially analyzes historical data for the company. Please note, the data analysts mostly analyze historical data and then hardly delves into predictive analytics, which is like making prediction, going into machine learning. So we will do more of diagnostic and even prescriptive description analysis. We don't go heavily into predictive analytics. And in the course of doing this course, we are going to be using a few tools, which we are going to learn over time. And what is data analyst? Or who is a data analyst? Either of them. So a data analyst is that professional who gets data, called ingesting data. He ingests data into a system or inserts data or queries data. Either way, he gets data from a particular system or multiple systems, and he cleans it. After cleaning it, he also inspects it. After inspecting it, transforms the data. After the data must have passed through these stages, it goes in for analysis using some analytical tools, or in Power BI, what we call data analysis expression. From there, during the analysis, he finds meaningful information, or what we call insights from the analysis. So let me be much more practical here. So the data analyst gets data from multiple sources, and these multiple sources could be a CSV file, CRM, database, or SQL database, from social media, from other sources like the financial sources, depending on what the company is using. And I could call these other sources depending on the company. So other sources. And then this data comes in from these different sources. This data comes in. This process of getting this data from here to a place where you load it is called injection. detail injection. And then this place where you load it could be depending on what you are working on. So let's say we are working on a typical data pipeline. So you could load it to a data warehouse system. So this data warehouse could be an enterprise data warehouse, it could be a data lake. And then from here, you could serve different people, like the financial department, it could serve the operation department, could serve the HR, and the different department we have. The department we have in the company. So from this point where the data comes in and it's being loaded from here, all right, so I need to put another stage here we call transform. I'm going to make it in short form. So this data is being loaded or ingested and transformed, loaded into the data warehouse. So this data warehouse is what you hear. I'm sure you have heard of the word, the single source of truth. Single source of truth. So what does it mean? Single source of truth. So it means, you see, all our data actually comes here. And this is where you will find every data we have. If you do, any data you don't find here, we don't have it. That's what it means, single source of truth. So in case you have issues anywhere, this data you find in the your financial data dashboard or data mart is not correct, you need to trace it back to the single source of truth. If it's not complete in operation, it's traceable back to the single source of truth. And that's how this is the single source of truth. And these things are what we call data marts. Data mart. And then from here, you can have your dashboard, the financial department. So for a large company, the financial analyst will just come and build their own dashboard. The operation of our performance analyst will come and build their own dashboard. Sure, you have heard these people, the people analyst, HR and data analyst. They are there. They can come in and build in their own dashboard. Build their own dashboard. So what you have here is the dashboard or the report. Dashboard or the report. This is the data mart. This is the data warehouse and the single source of truth. And what happened? The data comes in from here. It's being transformed. The data is being ingested from here and transformed. It goes into the data warehouse, from this data warehouse to this data mart. This data mart to the single source of truth. Now, this system we see here is a very short system. This system we see here is in an enterprise data warehouse. An enterprise data warehouse called IMNO methodology. It's called IMNO methodology. This is called IMNO methodology. Now, what if we have a system where Immediately you bring this data, you don't load them into a single source of truth. Instead, as you bring them, you create a staging area. From there, you create the data mass. The data mass is spelled like this. Create the data mass. Then from the data mart, you move everything into a data warehouse. From the data warehouse, you have this. This is always the last point. Data, the dashboard and report are always the last point. But a form where these two positions interchange. When when the data mart comes first, when the data mart comes first, have the popular Kimball methodology. Don't mind my writing. Kimball methodology. When the warehouse comes first, we have the IMNO methodology. And that's the two different enterprise data warehouse system we have. And which is the most popular? This is the most popular of all of them. Please take note of that. And these two systems create what we call dimensional data model, which is the most popular data model right now, which most companies will actually create. All right, so again, this what you just see here, this entire flow from the data collection, the data sources. All right, so this is the data sources. Sorry, I did not say it. From the data sources down to the dashboards, it's called data pipeline. It's called data pipeline. I don't even know where to put it. This whole thing is called data pipeline. This whole thing is called data pipeline. And remember, when the data mart, this is the data mart, comes first and then pours into the data warehouse, we call it Kimball methodology. When the data mart, we call it Kimball methodology, when the data warehouse comes first and pours and separates into different stages, you call it IMNO methodology. And these two types of methodology are called dimensional. It's called dimensional data model. And what really happens here, so the data analyst gets this data, transforms it, and this kind of data can be structured, unstructured, or structured data. And what are structured and unstructured data? So a structured data, it's a data that is in table. The data that you find in your database. And in Excel, in CSV, these are mostly structured data. Well, CSV may not necessarily be structured data. But yeah, it is structured data, comma separated long ends value. It's a structured data. So data you see in this kind of format are structured data. The data you see in the other format where we all spend our time, doing something, finding something, Discussing, having conversation, creating enormous data every day. It's called unstructured data. And those kind of places are the social media, have unstructured data. The videos, we have unstructured data. Images, we have unstructured data. These places are unstructured data. In between these two types of data, we have semi-structured data. Semi-structured data. And what is this semi-structured data? It is the one we call JSON data. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So they are unstructured data. They are nested data. You break them down to get what you want. So they are called semi-structured data sets. So I will recap again. So the data analyst gets this data, ingests it, transforms it, pours it into a data warehouse, and then create data marts, or create data marts quickly and then move everything to a data warehouse. And from there, creates different dashboards for the different departments in the company. And the kind of data the data analyst will definitely get are structured and semi-structured, structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data sets. And in the course of doing this, we say this, depending on what the company use, some company use the Kimball methodology where the data mart comes first, or the Inno methodology where the data warehouse comes first. And this process of bringing data from one point of injection to the point of visualization is what we call data pipeline. And for this is what you call an enterprise data warehouse, which most times, as a beginner data analyst, you may not find this job so easily. You could get the simple data analyst job. And this is what we are going to do in this, where all these things you're doing here will be demonstrated using Power BI. So Power BI gives us that method where you can ingest data, bring all the data from different data sources, load them. When you load them to a particular place called Power Query, or you transfer them in a particular place called Power Query, then you load them into a Power BI using transfer mode, load them into Power BI, create the dimensional modeling. After creating the dimensional modeling, which mostly we use the Kimball dimensional modeling, after creating it, you build a dashboard. Everything will be done in Power BI. You build the dashboard in it, and you build it you build for the different departments, the dashboard, and you give them access to this dashboard, and they will start consuming it. And that is your work on a daily basis. Any question here?
They don't start.
I have a question.
It's not a question, Sha. It's not a question, is an expression. So I wanted to ask, please, this if you do like a questionnaire in a form, is it a structured or semi-structured
All right, so most
data?
questionnaires are structured data because most times you move them into a database or a spreadsheet. They're structured data,
Okay.
where each of the question you ask represents a column, then
Yeah.
the answers represent the rows.
Okay. So once it's submitted, it goes straight to the spreadsheet.
Yes, if you want, we could do it as part of practice. We'll create a form, and in Excel, or we could use Google Sheets, create a form, and then get a few persons here to respond, and then you see them move into a Google. So the
Yeah, that would be nice if we have the time.
Google form, then see them, link into a Google Sheet, and then you have them there. Of course, it doesn't take time. 30 minutes is done.
Okay. Then this data warehouse is a bit confusing. How do you like this data pipeline now that you've explained? When we move from the data source, we ingest it into the data house. What's the how do we when we say data warehouse? Is there like a it's somewhere in the Power BI? Like you said, from Power Query to Power BI. Is it the Power Query that is the warehouse?
So this is an enterprise data warehouse. So in Power BI system, we don't have the data warehouse there. Power BI is just a business intelligence tool, but it's built to give you what we call pe- what we call it personal service BI. So self-service BI. So it's just about you as a manager or an authority quickly going to where your data is using Power BI, bring the data you want, then quickly get your analysis and your dashboard, and you move on with your life. That's what Power BI is built for. But beyond that, it has the capability to perform all these things, but it does not have the data warehouse system built in it. No, it doesn't have. But it can actually do most of what we have here. So it can actually pick the data from different data sources. Like you can, so many data sources. It can pick data from different data sources, move them into Power Query, where it will be transformed.
So
So
Power
it has
Query is the
been
transformation
it's,
level.
it's been ingested to Power Query, where it will be transformed. From being transformed, it doesn't go here. We don't Power BI does not have this system. What Power BI would do is this after transformation, Power BI would load it. It it would be you, the data analyst, would load it from Power Query into Power BI, Power Query into Power BI, and save it as a Power BI data set, PBIS. When you save it, you know how you save your Excel is in Excel format. When you save a data you load into a Power BI, it becomes a .pbis data. So you save it there. That moment where you save it, it could actually be served as your data warehouse, but it's not necessarily, it's not really a data warehouse. But that moment you save it, it could actually serve because all the entire data you actually loaded in there is there. It's going to be saved there. Even if you move the data so you did it yourself. Let's say Peculiar did it and send this PBIS data to you. And you can actually access all the data Peculiar actually extracted, even if it is still not connected to the data source, because immediately she moves it from her system, it's disconnected from the data source. But because you have saved it, it saves here. So that method where we have the data warehouse serving all the single source of truth, this can also be that single source of truth, holding that your data, all the entire data as a data set. As a matter of fact, you can actually export it using another tool. They can export it to a CSV format to get the raw data and have it in CSV if you want. So, because in this Power BI data set, they are going to exist as different tables on their own. You're going to be able to see it. Inside it, you also see how this table communicates in the form of what we call data modeling or dimensional modeling. So from there, you then build your different dashboards for all the different departments, or depending on the problem you're asked to solve. So that's what this Power BI gives us, and that's what we are going to focus on. We cannot start building this. The PrimeStore does not have this level of data to build an enterprise data warehouse. but trust me, over time we will have it. But you, as a data analyst, do not build data warehouse. Please take notes. This is the job of a data engineer. But it's important to understand what really happens here. Because over time, you might want to go into the role which I am currently in now, called analytical engineering. So in my role, we do this whole thing. We build this enterprise data warehouse, and then we'll also do the data visualization. So that's an easy way to move from a data analyst to a data engineering role through analytics engineering. And yeah, the pay is actually quite interesting. Trust me, pay is quite interesting. So I encourage you guys, over time, 2-3 years, you can choose to move into that. You just learn a few more tools that are used inside here. All right, so does that answer your question?
Yes, it has.
All right. Do we have any other question, guys? So we can move
And
on.
then another question, please. When you said when the data model comes first is a Kimball dimension, and when the warehouse comes first is IMNO. So how do you know which one comes first?
It depends on what your company is doing. It depends on what the company wants. So with the email, we tend to have a much more reliable single source of truth, unlike the much more transformed and splitted Kimball. It depends on what the company wants. But with the Kimball, you quickly have data that departments can use, even without the data warehouse. Different departments can quickly use and start analyzing. So you want to build fast, use Kimball. But if you want to preserve the truthfulness of the data, you use Imno. Does that make sense? But that still depends. So what do we have in Power BI among the two of them? So what we have in Power BI is the data comes in from wherever they are. We load them. So what we have here is this,
The Kimball.
the Kimball. Ensure you put it in your CV. You use Kimball methodology because the data comes in, you transform it, which is what is happening. You transform and send them to the different data mats. You load them to the different data mats and then start dishing out what you want. So that moment where you load it and save it as PBIS could be your data warehouse. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You sure that your yes is low?
It's low.
All right.
Seriously.
So focus on Kimball. You get the data, you transform it. When you transform it, you load it. You can choose to save it first before you do any other thing. Save it as a PBIS, which is like a file extension, Power BI file extension. You save it. That moment where it is saved as a PBIS could serve as a data warehouse because that's where all the data set is. Then from there, you can serve it to the different departments in form of dashboards. Exactly. And that method is called Kimball. Just know that this is what you're going to be working on. But just know that another thing also like this exists. And there is also another one that exists, which I currently use in my workplace, and it's called the data vote. Data vote. Or forget about this. This will just throw you off balance.
Mm.
All right. Are we good?
Yes.
All right. So where is Fola and Tequilia? Where are you
Please, I
guys?
have a question.
So Kingsley, sorry, is a business intelligence analyst different from business analyst?
Yes, business intelligence analyst is focused more on data. So the business intelligence analyst oversees the development of an enterprise data warehouse. Does not develop it, oversees, requires get data, does data gathers the data and gathers his team, his or her team, and then gathers a team of cross-functional team of developers and data engineers, data analysts, and build an enterprise data warehouse. And even BI developer. So the BI developer, where there's no data engineer, builds this. Where there's a data engineer, there will likely not be BI developer. So they build this enterprise data warehouse. So a BI analyst is mostly on the side of data, does not develop softwares. BI develops software and also knows a little bit, knows not a lot about the data analytics, but he or she builds softwares. So do we say the BI gets more paid, the BA gets more paid than the BI? Well, I would not say so, because they have different directions they are going. The BA goes that is tilted towards the software development, whereas the BI is tilted towards the enterprise data warehouse. So they are different people, and they can both exist in a company. All right, Peculiar, your time.
I actually wanted to draw attention to what you said about this process of this data pipeline
Okay.
you explained. Because I read somewhere where they said it's just for that is majorly for data engineers. So I wanted to ask you if what I read was wrong or not until you now clarified it that it's actually for data engineers.
Oh, okay.
Now my question is, if we're actually going to do this ingesting from ingesting to transform before we save as .pbis file, at what stage do we now clean, inspect, and all those things before we start working on our data?
Yes, so when you move data for Power BI, when you move data from the data source to the Power Query, this Power Query is a data profiling tool. So this is where you do all your cleaning and transformation. You don't do it in Power BI, you do it in Power Query. So Power Query is kind of a standalone application. You find it standing alone in Azure. You find it in Azure, you find it integrated into Power BI, you also find it integrated into Excel. It's a very powerful tool. It's a data profiling tool. It's one of the best data profiling tools out there. This is where you do your data profiling, which is like data inspection. This is the same thing as this. This is where you do your data cleaning. This is where you do your data transformation. So now you can imagine how powerful this place is. It's one of the most powerful places you can be. And in this place, you can do it through the interface. The click using the GUI, just clicking, dragging, and dropping GUI, or you can do it using the M language or M code. So if you understand to use the M code, you will become much more. It gives you extra power in Power Query, but we're not going to be doing M language. Don't want because we are doing DAX. DAX is also another language. So we're doing DAX in Power BI. So we won't be doing M language, but we'll be using the graphics user interface to do all our transformation and then move them into Power BI. In Power BI, we then do the analysis. Analysis happens in Power BI, not here. You can analyze here, but it's better you analyze in Power BI. And when you analyze in Power BI, you use what we call the DAX, data analysis expression. This is part of what you will see in job interviews. They will say a good knowledge of DAX, data analysis expression. That's what it is. That's what you use to analyze data. When you're done analyzing, then you then yeah. So does that answer your question?
Yes, please.
So is Power Query in Excel or in Power BI?
It's in both.
In both.
Yeah. Remember, it's owned by the same company, so it's in both. It's also in Azure. That is the cloud platform.
Okay.
Are we good? Fola?
Yes.
I don't know what to say. I'm seeing pipeline. I'm seeing supermarkets.
There's no supermarket.
I'm seeing warehouse. I'm seeing. I don't know.
Maybe I say Shola like supermarkets.
There's supermarkets, yeah. There's no
Shola
supermarket. Fola, do you
warehouse,
have
Yeah.
any?
data warehouse,
There's no supermarket here.
data mats.
The
You're
data
seeing data
max.
mart. That data mart that you've turned into data market, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do you have
Uh,
any question?
the okay. Just go ahead. I don't know.
No, no, I'm not going ahead. Ask that question. Ahead. Ask your question. Don't forget it. Ask it. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to answer it
The
now.
the data max. This data
Yes.
max you mentioned and the
Yes.
warehouse.
Yes.
I I don't understand the point of divergence
I
or the
like
point of
I
convergence.
I like your question. It's a very brilliant question. And that's what you would have muzzled in and not talk about it and thinking you're going to remember it later. Trust me, I may not be explaining it later. So what happens here is this is a single source of truth. All the data comes in here. All the data comes in here. From where you bring them, transform them, it comes in here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, so because all the data comes in here, we also need to find a way to feed the different departments.
Sorry. The data warehouse takes in all the transform data, right?
All the transformed data, you load them into the data warehouse.
Okay.
Yes, that's what really happens. This is just on a high level because there's what we call data lake and then data warehouse. But on the high level, this is what happens. When we are done transforming the data, we load them into a data warehouse. And this data warehouse is just the same thing as a database somewhere in,
Okay.
in the cloud. So I'm sure you have heard about BigQuery, Google BigQuery.
Mhm.
That's a data warehouse. You have heard about Redshift, Amazon Redshift.
No.
Okay, that's Amazon's own data warehouse. I'm sure you have heard about Snowflakes.
Yeah.
Conflicts.
Snowflakes,
Snow.
that's a data warehouse. You have heard about, I'm not sure you have heard about this one, Azure Synapse Analytics,
No.
Microsoft Azure's data warehouse. So these are the data warehouse you are going to find out there. Some people also build their own data warehouse in simple Postgres data warehouse, database engine. So what is this data warehouse? It's just building in a simple form. It's just another database where you move all your transform data into. That is in the simplest form, but that's not the truest form of it. It's another data warehouse. You move all the data as they come into your room, all your load, all your load, as they come into your room, you move them, you clean them, everything, you clean them, then you move them into, let's say, your bedroom, move everything there, or one particular store, move everything there. That's your data warehouse. And you know
Okay. Sorry.
how
Sorry.
they
Before you go ahead, I'm sorry to cut you short. For example, now if you have a set of data on a Microsoft Excel sheet,
Mhm.
you understand, and after cleaning that data, I mean you've and whatever that's on that particular data set. Uh, and
Mhm.
then you are now transferring it to a data to what's called a visual aspect of the
Yeah,
that is building
dashboard,
bar charts, boards, and all
the
that.
dashboard, yes.
Yeah. So at what point do you have in that kind of transfer? At what point do you have this data warehouse? Is it the
So
Excel Microsoft sheet itself? At
No.
that point, that's a data warehouse.
So what we are teaching you here, is not Excel level of a data analyst. We are teaching you the standard enterprise and industry standard level of data analyst. So the Excel level of data analyst is where we have everything, even the data. So they see the database as Excel, and then you use Excel to clean the data, and then you use Excel to build a dashboard. That's the Excel level. We're gonna still do that, but that's not
Dashboard.
the main thing. So the main thing is different from that. Excel is actually a data source on its own. We don't do any transformation in Excel. So there's another file called CSV. We don't do any transformation. There's another file, another data in the database. We don't do any transformation there. Then we'll move all those data from all those places. We'll move them to a place where we will clean them up. When we're done cleaning them up, we then move them to another place where we call the data warehouse. So look at it from the perspective of, so the Igbo man in Onitsha goes to Lagos. The Igbo man in Onitsha main market goes to Lagos.
Yeah.
He goes to Alaba. He goes to all the different markets, buys different products. As he buys all of them, he brings them to his house, to his shop in Onitsha. He arranges them and moves them into his own warehouse. So from his warehouse, he distributes them into his different shops. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And the level you're asking in Excel is just like seeing a simple roadside seller who will see somehow quickly go into that Laba market, buy a few things and quickly come and shade them. No warehouse, just come and shade them in his shop.
Okay.
That's
So
the level
that's the comparison.
exactly. I'm trying to bring
So
it home. So we are teaching you that big industry standard way, where this man will move from Onitsha, go get these goods, arranges them, move them into his into his warehouse in Onitsha, and from his warehouse he distributes them to his different shops. This warehouse is the data warehouse. His different shops are the data marts.
okay. Sorry, before you move ahead. For example, if we have a team of data analysts working in a company, do they
Yes.
all have that data warehouse on each of their systems, or they have it on the main server?
No. So if we have a team of data analysts, that means that company is quite a big company. So what happens is that they will all feed from this data warehouse. So you likely have one assigned to financial department most times, who will be running financial dashboard, another one to operations, another one to HR. That's what you will get. But if you get those ones that feed only on Power BI, no data warehouse, they will just share this, they will all have the same data. They will all pull data at the same point and then analyze it and push them. There is also a central point called the data Power BI service, which you're going to learn later. Power BI service. And what is Power BI service? It's just Power BI online. When they are done analyzing it, they will all push the data online where everyone can see it. So yes, there can be more than one data analyst who will just do the simple data Power BI stuff like we say here. And this PBIX will be saved in their own system. Then they can load it into Power BI service. In Power BI service, let's say data analyst A runs the analysis and moves them here. If data analyst B, or data analyst 1, data analyst 2, data analyst 2 wants to run the same analysis, does not need to tell this person, please, can you send me your PBIS? No. He will go up into the Power BI service online and downloads it to his system and ensure the connections are correct and start analyzing. Or could say, okay, I don't want to download it and go up and start building dashboard do the analysis on the Power BI service, you will know, you will learn all these things. So there can be more than data analysts. Like the company I worked in the US, we were 2 data analysts. We are all consuming the same .pbis. So it can be more than one. We don't even have an enterprise data warehouse. We have data scattered everywhere and there, and we are putting them together to build what we can build. So you can have you and your colleague in the same company, and you don't have an enterprise data warehouse, and you don't have a data engineer to build this. You can still all work to collaborate together and then build something. And we are going to all test what we are building. All right. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Or you want
Okay.
more clarification?
It's okay for now. As progress,
All right. So, but are you clear with how we separate this enterprise data mart and data warehouse? Is it clear to you?
It's not so clear. It's not so
All right.
clear. To be honest, it's not so clear.
I need to really get you to be clear with this. You know, you made mention of data, more than one data analyst
Yeah.
in the company. This is actually where we need that more than one data analyst.
Okay. In each of the departments.
Exactly. Because one person will start crying that the workload is so much, and they will get another person for him or her. So they can decide to say, all right, let's bring you one more person. All right, so now you that we are bringing, since you are new, stay with HR only. We're going to be analyzing only HR data. You're going to be pulling it from this central data warehouse, pull only HR data. They analyze it and then build your own data, build your own, what is it called? Build your own HR dashboard.
Kingsley, I just need you to tell me the data mats. Does it? Do you get the data mats after the data warehouse or before?
Another good question. When you get you can get it. You can do both. When you get the data mats after the data warehouse, like we have here, this method is called InMo methodology. You get the data mats first, then after you pour them into the data warehouse and connect your Power BI. This method is called the Kimball methodology, and it is the Kimball methodology we are practicing most in this training, where immediately you get the data, you quickly clean it, transform it, and load it. Now, when you load it, you're going to build data model on them. When you're done building the data model, you could choose to build it for the different departments. This data model you build for the different departments become the data mats.
Okay.
And then after building the data model, you save it. I'm saying this in terms of Power BI. You save it. How are you going to save it? You save it as a .pbis. That is a file format. This method, this saved data set, we call it Power BI data set. This saved data set that you have finished transforming and building your data model and then you save, it becomes the data warehouse. That is what it's serving here. Every data is saved here. So from here, you can then start dishing out the dashboard.
Okay.
Yes. So what are we doing? We get the data, we transform it quickly, we build data model for the different departments, then we save everything. That saving, because we don't have the normal data analysis, the one we are teaching, we don't have that enterprise data where there's no data engineer. So we are doing everything in Power BI. The one we do everything in Power BI, that's what I'm explaining to you. There is no enterprise data warehouse. But you see this thing I explained to you. This thing I explained to you. Please go and rewatch the video. This is going to be your standing point. This explanation, this is going to be where you're going to put your feet strong and explain to the recruiter that you understand what it means. And if you understand it, trust me, you're not the one building it as a data analyst, but you're going to be able to use it because you understand it. That's what they want to know. You're not building it. But you are able, because you have a clear understanding of it, you are able to replicate it in a simple Power BI, in Tableau, in different business intelligence platforms. You're able to replicate this big thing. You'll be able to replicate it in a very minute way in a business intelligence tool. And you know what? We are doing all these things. Like everything I have explained here, apart from the building an enterprise data warehouse, we're building everything in data mart, the Kimball methodology, we're building it in Power BI. So you're going to be carried along as we build it. Does that make sense?
Okay. All right.
All right.
That makes sense.
Don't worry. So I will encourage you to watch the video again. You have to watch it twice. Trust
Okay.
me, it will start making sense to you. And please make sure nobody is disturbing you when you're watching it.
Okay. All right.
A question? I hope we'll be able to do the other thing I said we will do, because we have spent so much time, but it's nice. All right, so if we don't have any other question, what I will do is to continue. We have to erase this and continue. Okay. All right, guys, let's move on. All right, we spent so much time here. All right, so importance of data analysis in decision-making process. E-commerce companies, retail industry, e-commerce companies like Amazon. Amazon can also be called retail because they also do retail. Retail companies like Asda, financial companies like the banks, NHS like the healthcare companies, logistic companies like the DHS. These people all make good use of data. They make good use of data heavily. One of my friends got a job in DHL and with sponsorship, but he didn't need the sponsorship anymore, so he didn't accept the offer. He had a better offer from another company, and he went for that. So just know that DHL can sponsor you anyway. So all these companies need data analysts. They need data analysts to help them make informed decisions at different levels. And these companies I just mentioned, these industries use data heavily. So in terms of e-commerce, you don't necessarily need to be in Amazon if you think it is difficult, but don't really think it's difficult. There are several e-commerce companies out there, so many of them that need your services. So I cannot lie to you, mostly the e-commerce companies that I know, mostly, they make use of analytics. You need to know it. You need to know Google Tag Manager because they are using mostly Google products. You need to know Google AdWords. And you need to know the most important one, Looker Studio. So these people make use of this thing a whole lot. And what is This Google Analytics is used to understand customer behavior that come to their website. You can use it to easily understand which points, analyze at which point they stopped in their journey towards making purchase. Some pick different things into carts, and when they get to the point of buying, they stop. You need to analyze the data and understand what made them to stop. You need to analyze the data to understand how many people from different regions, which region they are coming from, their customers, which region they are coming from, what is their sex, what is their orientation, what is their age group. A proper understanding of a proper Google Analytics will help you understand your customer behavior. Google Tag Manager is used to manage all this Google Analytics in form of tag. Google AdWords is to understand how your ads is performing against the customers you are getting. And then all these things will be analyzed in this place called Looker Studio. Looker Studio is Google's own Power BI. It's Looker Studio. It's free of charge. And we will touch Looker Studio. It is easy to learn and grasp. We'll touch it towards the end of our training. And then we will use free data from Google to merchandise we'll analyze free data from Google merchandise, which is actually data, real-time data. We'll be able to use it to, analyze it, use it to get insight, build dashboard with it. So then we have the retail. The retail industry don't really matter. They can use any data sets. They can use any type of business intelligence to run their data, to run their analysis. But this one, they use mostly Google products. And I've told you why, because they make good use, they have access to all these things. So, and the financial industry like bank don't really matter. So the beautiful thing is see in this place, this is where you find yourself in any of the big companies, that's where you are going to see pure data warehouse in place. So your job is to just go and pick that small data. It will just be relegated to a small department where you'll be having access to a data mart, and you build your data data dashboard and move on with your life. That's what you will be doing mostly. But you're likely going to see it here, except with a very big company. What you're going to see here is smaller companies, but they pay you well. Like they pay you in a region of 4,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds a month. So they pay you well. So when I say they are small, don't think they will not pay you well. They are making business, they are making money, so they will pay you well. This is the retail, of course. These are the big ones. The healthcare, well, the UK healthcare, mostly the NHS will give you sponsorship, but they don't, not that the NHS pays so well, but of course they pay better than the menial salary. But you need to understand healthcare data. You need to understand healthcare data. You need to be intentional. I think Coursera has something around healthcare data where you can analyze if you are intentional about being in the healthcare industry, you can analyze healthcare data at different levels, have it enough of it, be good at it. If you can have access to NHS data, which I'm not sure if you'll be able to have access to, I don't think you can, but if you can, then that's fine. You will be able to understand how the patients really feel. You will really be able to feel them. So this is quite difficult because it's difficult to get the data sets from here, because it has a lot of sensitive data. This one you can find a lot of normal data online out there. You can find a lot of the logistic data online, but not sure of this. But never can tell you can search and find. But either way, these companies make good use of data to find insights into customers. These ones, they find insight into their customers. They find insight into so many things around the financial industry. And the financial industry is a very rich industry, trust me. So there is money. You find, my friend told me 2 weeks ago, he said, Kingsley, if you find a way to go into the financial industry, there is money. These people have money. Just go in. They have money to spend. That's because he is actually working with one of the big financial industry in the country, if not the biggest. So so that is it about them. Any of this industry, you're going to be able to give them your best. Your skills are needed in these industries. So I encourage you to move there. Go and help them in decision making. And for us, we are going to be using Excel, SQL Server, and MySQL, and then Power BI. Excel, SQL Server. So either SQL Server or MySQL. The most important thing you're going to learn is SQL. That's the most important thing you're going to learn. So your SQL, you can use it in SQL Server and MySQL. And what are the difference? So let me explain to you the difference in this. We have the SQL Server, and we have the MySQL. Owned by Microsoft. Owned by Oracle. Both of them use ANSI SQL. So look at it as a general language. So you have from Igbo. So you notice that the man from Anambra State has a different dialect from the man in Imo State. And they have different dialect from the man from Ebonyi State. And this is how it happens here. This is how it happens here too. And my SQL's dialect is called, my SQL Server's dialect is called T-SQL. So the name of the dialect, just like the name of the dialect the Anambra people speak, the name of the Igbo the Anambra people speak, yes, it's called, they call it the Anambra Igbo. So the name of the dialect that you use to write SQL to write in SQL Server, this is not the language you're writing. This is the engine. This is SQL Server engine. This is the language you're writing, the SQL you're writing. It is called T-SQL. T stands for transactional SQL. SQL stands for structured query language. Transactional structured query language. This one, its own still remains MySQL. So, and they just have a little difference, which you will know when we start learning when we start learning SQL. I'm going to show you some of those little differences and where to find them easily. It's so easy. Don't worry about it. And by the time you know it, so the SQL we're going to teach you, you will be able to use it in, you're going to use it here, you're going to use it here, you're going to use it in Postgres, you're going to use it in MariaDB, you're going to use it in BigQuery, you're going to use it in Redshift, to use it just anywhere you see that you can run SQL, just use it. You're going to be able to use it in any of those places. Please take note of those. So, but this is what we're going to, this is our main teaching point or our main entry point. So the standard we have here means, the standard we're giving to you means what we teach you in Excel, you can use it in Google Sheets. What we teach you in MySQL and SQL Server, you can use it in any of the other, you use it in Postgres, MariaDB, and SQLite. What we teach you in Power BI, you can use it in Tableau. The same methodology, just different interface where things are. You can use it in Tableau, you can use it in different business intelligence tools. All right, so let us continue. So explain the Excel. We're going to be using Power BI, SQL Server, and the Power BI. And so some of the case studies we are going to be analyzing retail industry. Case studies are some of retail industry, financial industry, manufacturing, healthcare, e-commerce, marketing, and advertising, and then transport and logistics. Those are some of the case studies we are going to do. That's like projects we are going to do. And we are going to be fully hands-on. We are going to be fully hands-on. So you need to do, if you don't do it, it becomes difficult for you to, meet up with what we are doing. And yeah, that's the end of data analysis. Any question?